You're listening to Conservation Connection.
Presented by Last Chance Endeavors.
I'm Chance.
I'm Sarah Catherine.
And we are a husband and wife team that runs an environmental education nonprofit focused on connecting students to the environment.
Here on Conservation Connection, we do just that by introducing you to the groundbreaking science and conservation work that's happening every day across the globe.
We talk to professionals in the world of conservation science and the environmental movement, and we ask them about their career,
their current projects,
their wild and crazy stories from the field,
and everything in between.
This episode is brought to you by the Wild and Scenic Film Festival in Nevada City, California.
Wild and Scenic presents environmental and adventure films to illustrate the Earth's beauty,
the challenges that our planet faces,
and the work communities worldwide do to protect our home.
Join us as we discover just how these dedicated people are working to protect our planet.
Let's get to the show.
Alrighty guys, welcome to another episode of Conservation Connection. We are here at the Wild and Scenic Film Festival in Nevada City, California. We're getting some incredible interviews here, and I'm very excited this episode to be sitting down with Kristen Hull. She is the founder and CEO of NIA Impact Capital.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're super happy we got to have you on the show today. So why don't you, start with why are you here at Wild and Scenic?
Oh, sure. Well, it is one of the best film festivals ever. And I love the educational aspect of film, and I love the community aspect. And what a privilege for us to be able to meet the producers, some of the directors about this important movement.
You can watch these films sitting at your home, but being able to be in the space with other people who are watching it at the same time, being able to be in the space with the people who created it or were featured in it, it creates conversation, right? And conversation sparks action. And so that's a really cool thing about being able to be here in person at the festival is it's just really, really neat.
So now let's move on to the meat of the episode, which is NIA. So tell us a little bit about what exactly is NIA.
Sure. So it's perfect that we're here talking about this with activism because we are actually activist investors. NIA means intention and purpose, and it actually came to us from the Swahili. It's also Arabic and Punjab, and really looking at every company with intention and purpose and building investment portfolios with intention and purpose. So we look at our 6 solution themes, starting with the environment, and we're really looking at how can people and planet not only survive but thrive together, and investing for the economy that we want to see, because we get the economy we invest into. And so really driving money and investments purposefully into the economy that will work for everyone.
So what made you're the founder of NIA. So what made you want to start this fund?
Well, that's a great question because there's so few women in asset management. So actually women and people of color combined make up 1.3% of the 80 trillion that is out there. And boy, would our economy look really different if more women and people of color were directing assets and making investment decisions. I didn't know that when I started this. I started this in Oakland, California, and I just kind of figured that all the cool women in asset management were hanging out in Boston or New York, and I just didn't know them. And it turns out there are so few of us. My story goes back actually to the garage. My dad started a trading firm in our garage in California, as one does. And,
right, just casually.
Yeah. So I was involved in that trading firm, since I was about 14, puts, calls, pork bellies, options, commodities, futures, and algorithmic trading and high frequency trading is very transactional. So we're honestly looking at buying low and selling high as often as one possibly can in any given time period. It's very transactional. And it's not the economy that I feel like we need. We got very good at that. We were able to harness financial markets for financial gain really well. When we ended up selling that company, it was a time for me to step back, and I really noticed that lots of my friends, I had become a classroom teacher during this time as well. And the teachers and the families in my community didn't know about money and they didn't know about investing. And I thought, you know what, we could harness financial markets for more than that. We can invest with our values. And I wanted to create products where people could harness financial markets for social and environmental gains, in addition to making returns that would build wealth for our community.
And that's really an important conversation to be having, because a lot of the conversation that I've been seeing in the environmental science sphere is that when it comes to like a cost profit ratio that we're looking at for businesses, a lot of times we're ignoring the cost of the detriment to the environment, right? If we're a manufacturing company, we're looking at how much does it cost me to buy this raw material and how much can I get once I've manufactured it into something else and sell it. But that profit margin doesn't take into account the cost of extracting that raw material from the earth in terms of what are the environmental damages to that. And so there's this big shift in how people are looking at the role of the environment in the financial sphere. And so I love to hear this term, activist investors, people who are are using investments to make sure that where we're putting our money is creating a greener future, a greener tomorrow.
Absolutely. So that's what we do. And we start by letting go of or detaching from the index. It was kind of invented in the late 70s, popularized in the 80s and 90s, is this index investing where the theory came out of modern portfolio theory, where we would invest across the economy in just about every sector. That means we're going to get a mess because we're investing across every sector. And yet, if we can invest into the economy that we need, that is renewable, regenerative, inclusive, sustainable, that's what's going to help our planet and our society thrive. And so thinking about those externalities that are not on the balance sheet is really, really important. So if you think about the oil and gas industry, when that started, the Rockefellers and others discovered that it was in Oklahoma, Texas. It was literally bubbling up out of the ground. They just had to scoop it up, refine it right there, and transport it to where it needed to go. It was a relatively simple business model. And now, I think to your point, there are researchers. There's actually more geologists on staff at Exxon and Chevron than others because they're out researching where can we find this under the sea, in national parks, et cetera. How are we going to drill for it? And then we have to transport it, and then there's pipelines and on the spills that can happen, and none of this ends up on the balance sheet. So
Right.
How can we be thinking about keeping the earth and our community in our ROI and in all of the impact? Because people ask me, well, what is an impact investor? And I guess my answer would be that every investment has impact, and we just have to be really careful and conscious of, are we having the positive impact that we want to have with our investments?
So when did you found NIA?
It's been a process. I started investing this way in 2007. And then the current portfolios we manage are in their 8th year. And there have been different iterations along the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in that time, I feel like impact investing has kind of become a more known thing, like through the past years, kind of as you were mentioning, like used to invest just across all of these different areas and not really focus in the things that you can do to make an impact. So in the time that you've been doing this, what changes have you seen over the years?
Oh, so many changes. Well, one is popular now, and so popular that there's actually opposition. Before, we were just this niche thing over on the side, kind of talking to ourselves, and the choir was small. And now in the past couple of years, the whole, ESG, environment, social, and governance, giving that extra attention and that added due diligence is now problematic and politically being attacked. So I don't mind that because it opens up the dialogue, and now we get to really define what is it that we're doing. One of the other things, just as far as changes I'm seeing, is that there's lots of greenwashing because it became popular. So some of the really large banks and some of the smaller ones. In fact, many of the asset managers are not necessarily reorganizing or shifting how they're doing their investments. They are retitling investment products. And so we're seeing some greenwashing. We're also seeing some green wishing. And that's on the side of both portfolio managers as well as on the company side, where when we're looking at all of our companies to set targets about what will be their net neutral, when will they be net zero on carbon emissions, we're asking them for their scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions data, and they're kind of stating that they will do that in the future. And yet we need that done now. We need those targets set now. We need strategic targets and plans on how to get to where we need to go. At NIA, one of the things that we've been doing for a long time, and we hope that others will join, is to leave that index behind and really just invest into those companies that are working on purpose, whose revenues are coming from one or more of our solution themes, because we know then that they are baked with purpose and really driving the economy where it needs to go.
So how do we, what can the average consumer do to determine when an impact investing group is greenwashing, or whether it's truly based on something that's having a positive impact? Like, how do we suss out the difference between one that has been greenwashed and one that is actually doing what it says it's doing?
Sure. So that's a great question. And there's going to be more and more ratings coming out, and they're all looking at things from a little bit of a different perspective. One of the ways to tell is, like at NIA, this is what we do. We're experts at this. This is all we do. And we are 100% dedicated to investing at the intersection of environmental sustainability and social justice. That shows up in every one of the companies, all of the work, the way we engage with companies, and in each of our portfolios. It also shows up in the way we do our hiring and the way we run our own company. And I mention that as an example because we're a B Corp. We're actually the highest rated financial services among B Corps. We are Gender Equity Now certified, and we're members of several other affiliations where we're working in the community because this is what we care about. This is what we want to do. There are other firms that want to appeal to those that are interested in a green, and they don't really have that expertise. So they are probably offering 5 or 10 or more investment portfolios, and then 1 or 2 of them they'll set up to be maybe green, or we call pink if they include like a gender or possibly a racial equity lens. If they're not fully dedicated to this, then they don't really believe in this. And they probably aren't hiring the expertise to actually get this done. Because if you have 8 portfolios that have oil, gas, emitters, et cetera, and then you have 2 that are green, what does that mean? And how?
It means that you see greenwashing as a way to get more assets in the door, right? It's like the only reason that I'm doing this is because it brings more money to me, as opposed to I'm doing this because I think that this is what we have to do to create a greener future, right?
Right. So our firm, as I mentioned, was really founded on this premise of, wow, we got to help people get their money out of the bad and into the good, partly because that's what the earth needs, but also there's a lot of risk in these companies. As I mentioned, the oil and gas industry is much more problematic than when it started, a century ago. And so being able to de-risk portfolios by doing this careful due diligence is also going to be beneficial for people and planet.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a win-win, right?
It's a win-win-win.
Less risky investment, and it also ensures a stable future for humanity.
Well, exactly. And then because we make concentrated portfolios, we cap our flagship portfolio at about 50 companies. So we know those companies really, really well. We put each one in for a purpose. We watch with them, and then we also engage with them. So we get to know the people behind the ticker, and we know that there's no perfect company. So we are working with each company on various issues, from how to do their hiring, their promotion, their retention well across their diversity, equity, and inclusion goals, all to how are they looking at their scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, and how can they be more transparent about their commitments.
Yeah. So we have a lot of young adults that listen to the show that are probably interested in investing, but maybe find it daunting, don't know where to put their money, don't know how to start, don't know where to go, who to talk to. So what would be your recommendation for someone listening that's like, cool, I want to do that. How do I do that?
Okay. Well, first I would say that you're not alone, that our system is set up to isolate us a little bit. And we don't, as a culture, particularly women, talk about investing. We're not necessarily included in those conversations. Most of us haven't had that curriculum in high school or college. And so then you graduate with these degrees and move on into your career, not knowing these skills. And then the vocabulary can be daunting. So all to say you're not alone. There's a few things. You can go to our website, of course, NIA Impact Capital. We are there wanting to make things as transparent and easy as possible. If you are a woman, there are Invest for Better circles, which is a fabulous nonprofit that is setting up educational groups that you run out of your own living room with a curriculum where you meet monthly and learn about investing. And there's a book by Janine Firpo about Invest for Better that is really exciting for women that want to get into that. For just about everyone, do some clicking around and look at some of these sites. In ours, we have some references and some educational materials on our site as well.
I completely understand the idea that even the vocabulary is daunting, because I've always been the let's go in the woods and catch bugs and lizards kind of guy, So the idea of spending my time sitting down and learning about the differences in these financial terms and their relevance, their importance, it's just always been hard for me. And I know how important it is, because financial literacy and being intentional with your investments is absolutely how we get massive change in the world, right? You said it yourself. You said that we get the economy that we invest into. So this is one of those places where even when it's hard, you have to show up, because it really, really matters to make sure that any of your investments are making the world a better place, basically, is what it boils down to.
It's tricky for those of us that care about the environment and care about our society or social justice or any of those issues, because our economy isn't organized that way as far as investments. So Wall Street was not set up with that in mind. And so NIA is trying to make it more accessible and easier to align your dollars with your environmental goals and your values. And so if you think about just our largest index is the S&P 500, why we as a nation or a world organize around the U.S. that's very, country centric, but also the 500 largest companies. Who designed it that way? That's very linear. Women in particular, we're really wanting to know, how are our companies organized? So at NIA, we look at where does the revenue come from, because that tells us how is the company baked. Do they have revenue sources, a very business model that is working towards the things that we care about? Do they have a governance structure, executives that can get this done? So we want to see a diverse board. We want to see expertise at the top. So we're really looking on a company by company basis, as opposed to by saying this size of company or this domicile where companies are located is an important investment thesis. We're kind of scrapping that and moving to old school and saying, how does this company matter for the economy that I want to live in? And can we build a diversified portfolio of those purpose-driven companies?
Yeah, absolutely. So looking forward into the future, what inspires you to continue doing this work? And what do you kind of hope to see in the future, in the next 5, 10, 15 years, basically in this space?
Well, I'll tell you, young people inspire me. Absolutely. So young people are not as caught up in the status quo and this old school type of investing where they really see through the short-term profits and really get that they want to be invested in the companies that are going to make a difference over the long term. And they really see the importance of investing into companies that are doing good for the environment, that you can do well, do good, and make profits all at the same time. So I definitely have hope with our young people. And then what I've seen from young people is that they will talk to their advisors and they will say, I want a green portfolio. And they will look at the list of the top 10 and say, XYZ is not a green company. Why is this in here? And so they are questioning the status quo, and we need those questions. We definitely have seen that our economy and completely our financial services industry changes one investor request at a time. So each person that can say, hey, I want this, mutual fund in my retirement plan, I need to see it there, then they'll list it for you. And then your entire company gets to also have that in their retirement plan. So each young person who speaks up and asks for what they want, hey, I don't have any women managers in my portfolio. I need to see some women and people of color represented here. That's making a difference.
Absolutely. And kind of speaking on the topic of young people, if somebody listening right now knows that they're interested in finance as a career, knows that they care about the environment and want to kind of get into the field of impact investments, what are kind of some of the steps or recommendations you would give to somebody who is like high school or early college age to get into this field as a career?
Oh, I love the question. So many of the big banks offer internships, and we offer a Change the Face of Finance internship at NIA as well. Checking them out, going to some of the webinars or things that these companies are offering, and listening in. What resonates? LinkedIn is a great tool to meet people. There's lots of webinars listed and for free things where you can kind of check out and see what you want to do. LinkedIn is an amazing tool to connect with people in our industry.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us. It's really neat to hear about what NIA is doing and the change that you're making in the world. Your willingness to say, hey, we're not going to do what's been done traditionally. We're going to do this in a way that really makes the world a better place.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm really excited about this work in this podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Conservation Connection.
If you enjoyed our podcast, go ahead and subscribe to make sure you catch every episode that we post.
We'd love to hear from you. So if you want to reach out, go to our website, lastchanceendeavors.com/contact, and shoot us an email.
We love questions from our listeners, so if you heard something you'd like to learn more about, be sure to let us know.
If you've got a minute to spare, leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts will help other conservation-minded people find the show. We'd really appreciate it.
A big thanks to the people working to protect our planet, and a big thanks to you for listening. Don't forget to tune in next time.